Hey, everybody. Welcome to the morning market briefing. It is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. If you know an accountant, give them a shout. It's their 1 day of work for the year. You should give them a call. Just see how they're doing. Check in on them. Ask them some questions. Maybe see if they have time for lunch to talk strategy for next year. It's a great day to do that.
They like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's interesting is this is the first year in a number of
That
years
it's on the
where it's
15th.
actually on the 15th.
Yeah.
Not in the state of Tennessee. State of Tennessee because of
They pushed it back
yeah,
because
there's
of the
snowstorms. Yeah. So
It's
I think
like
it's
March.
May 22nd.
Yeah, May.
They moved to March of next
They
year.
moved it. And last year we had the hurricane relief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
It's wild. We've gotten soft. It is in this day of technology, it's impossible to get your taxes done if it snowed.
Yeah,
So-
you got to pay the piper, except if it rained.
Yeah. And then you're home free. TK, what's up, man? How's it going?
Good. Glad to be back.
Little Braves game last night.
Little Braves game, little networking with the young boys.
Yeah.
Seemed like a great game.
It was a great game. Huge 3-run double.
Yep.
Was it eighth?
Eighth inning.
Yeah, eighth inning.
Yeah.
And then big shutout in the last inning.
It was pretty, I watched literally the eighth inning. And that was all I watched, so I kind of nailed that. Going tonight though. Gonna go check out the Braves first time this year. See how they look. I'll give a report.
You gonna chop?
Probably gonna chop. Yeah. I did get a pretty good story that he'll hear this when he listens to it on delay. But a mutual friend of mine and David Hale, who works in the office, said that David Hale got a foul ball tossed to him by one of the Braves, which I think is very funny to me because just imagining David stealing the ball from a small child is a lot of fun, especially as a guy that used to play on that field.
I was once hit in the chest by a foul ball.
Really?
It was Dan Ugla fouled it off. It was at the old stadium, but I'd done a lot of tailgating. We went pretty hard in the parking lot.
That used to be a real thing.
The vibes were hot. Attention level was low, and I just happened to turn back towards the field. I clocked the ball about 3 feet from me. It hit me straight in the sternum, and a small child picked it up and was very excited, and I had a massive welt on my chest for a couple weeks after. Yeah.
I've never had any encounter with a foul ball or a home run or any of that.
Yeah, that was my one and only shot. I wasn't paying attention. I was
That's brutal.
cracking wise.
that is tough. Ben, any foul ball experiences?
No foul ball.
The modern stadiums are so heavily netted
Yes.
that, it's tough. Then you go to a youth sporting event and you're like, I'm going to get hit 3 or 4 times a game by the field behind me. So, all right. Well, way to get out there, Thomas. Your network is your net worth. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Yeah, that's a good saying. You should put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
Life is about maintaining relationships. That's one of my main mantras in life.
Yeah.
It's true.
And it's a highway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where we are economically. We got all this, so much noise going on. I hearken back to themes of early in the year that we discussed on the call as well as in our market symposium. We talked about inflation cooling off was the expectation. We talked about challenges in the employment picture. But we also, when the year began, Ben, felt pretty positive about kind of the kickoff of the year. First 2 quarters, pretty easy comps, comping over massive amounts of uncertainty back in 2025. Where do you feel, if we ignore the market reaction to these events like the war, where do you feel like we are as we look at actual performance of companies, and is that coming to fruition where we're really seeing strength? And do you have any revision to your expectation that the back half of the year might be more challenging?
Yeah, there's a modest revision. I think that some of the reason that we're seeing such good earnings from companies even like Bank of America today is because of the easy comparison periods from last year. Again, in Q1 we had the Doge impact, and then in Q2 we had the issues with the tariffs, and so we're comping over some pretty easy periods from that perspective. So companies are going to be putting up good numbers. I think some of the tailwinds that we thought would happen in the first half of the year for the markets are getting shifted a little bit more and are going to be a little bit more balanced over the course of the year. So think things like, and this is really because of the Iran war. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about inflation coming down. I still think it's fundamentally coming down, but we're not seeing that right now because of the gasoline prices, which is also forestalling interest rates coming down and the release of money market funds into public markets and private markets. And I think that when that starts to happen, then the markets themselves can start to cook a little bit. But I do think we're continuing to see economic improvement underlying. I think we can continue to see underlying inflation moderation. But the second half for companies is still going to have some headwinds from tougher comps versus the first half of the year. But we're going to have the benefit, I think, of potentially easier monetary policy that really picks up in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because what's odd to me is I feel like as we look at the major themes that we laid out at the beginning of the year, I feel like most of them are largely intact, and yet they're not necessarily having an impact on the market, or they're being ignored, or generally just there's bigger stories. So it has been an interesting year. I think the challenge of that is that if you come in as an investor with a set of presuppositions that are in place and those get put on the back burner, I think it becomes very easy to stop monitoring them.
Mm-hmm.
And you become, I mean, you can see it even in the form of word count on the daily podcast. I mean, we've talked so much about other things that I think you got to kind of recalibrate periodically and frankly all the time to just say what's actually happening, what did we think was going to happen, how are we positioning portfolios relative to these expectations, and are these expectations still accurate? And when there's a lot of noise, it's harder to focus on that.
I would say we are getting some really good numbers out of New York this morning.
Empire
Manufacturing survey came out. Prior result was minus 0.2. We just improved to positive 11.0. And the reason for that primarily is new orders. New orders went to 12.9. Excuse me. They went up 12.9 points from a reading of 6.4 to a reading of 19.3. And it's difficult to see from this chart, but this is at least as high as we've been since early 2023, but probably since 2021. Certainly the sustained momentum is there. So
the expectation was a reading of 0?
Yes.
So we beat it infinitely.
And then prices paid, kind of trending in line with where we were. Employee work week is increasing. Even number of employees beginning to increase as well. So we're seeing some good numbers there. The beige book is going to be released at 2 p.m. We have the import price index coming as well this morning. But, you look at Bank of America. Hicks, just pull up that first chart. Maybe we'll do the Bank of America credit and debit year-over-year growth. No?
Man, just absolute defiance from compliance. Just saying no way.
Or the...
You didn't send them in pictures. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Man, Ben didn't even send it.
I saved all of the images in the file that I normally save them, and then I forgot to attach them.
I'm looking at the picture.
That's my fault. No, Hicks needs...
Yeah, hold it up to the camera. This is a good pod.
No, we need to get them saved. That was definitely on me. That was not super producer Hicks. Otherwise, he would no longer be super producer, but he does remain super producer. But
bullet dodged.
But the main takeaway I was going to say is that credit and debit spending growth is accelerating at Bank of America. It was up 12% on entertainment, up 6% on travel, and up 3% on gas. So even with all the massive gasoline price increases, we're still only up 3%. People are spending more on entertainment and travel. And by the way, delinquency and non-performing loans are down both on the personal side and also on the commercial side. So everything's good.
So everyone's complaining, but everyone's doing just fine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's
life in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. TK, ASML raising guidance.
Yeah, I took a look at them this morning. They're down this morning, but I thought they had a pretty strong quarter. I think people were just a little hesitant on Q2 being a little bit slow. But I think the overall narrative, I listened to their CEO and CFO kind of come out with like a mini webcast before they actually do the call in the morning. And I mean, just the demand on the logic and memory side is absolutely insane. So often they're really ahead of the curve when it comes to what their highest level of technology can be implemented to on these companies that are buying their machines. And they're actually starting to see that their newest generation of machines that they've had around for like a year now are actually getting interest from these memory companies that are looking for like those smaller nodes at like 1 to 3 nanometers. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
So basically operating at a good level, but also finding new applications. How much of that do you think is, I don't follow the company closely, how much of that is them selling through with a different application or really attracting customers, and how much is customers just getting creative and saying, hey, we need this?
So I think that their regular machine is just the, not the high UEV machine, and that right now is the main demand, and customers are able to even scale that for their current production needs. But until they have a certain capacity for their memory chips or whatever logic system they're building, it's just not cost efficient for them to have this specific system. So as these memory chips get more efficient and more specific and things like that, that's when they'll be able to implement these new machines that ASML has.
Thomas, do you know how much these machines cost?
Oh my gosh, it's insane. They don't even make the machines before putting there. So I remember
it's in
it
the
was
7
like,
to 8 figures.
I mean, it's absolutely
Wow.
crazy. Like those, I mean, I don't know what ASML's market cap is right now, but like they're selling 60 machines a year. That's it.
I guess 9 figures.
Yeah,
Man,
it's insane.
we got to make some.
Yeah, we got to start selling stuff that's $1 million. Hugs from Hicks,
Yeah, priceless.
priceless.
Scott Bessent did an interview with Wall Street Journal. Anything stand out to you, Tom, other than
I mean,
his
other than
his
just
admiration for Bank of England?
being the man. I mean, it looks like they're trying to figure out new ways to sort of monetize the Fed. And we've talked a lot about how they're losing $100 billion a year and how the Bank of England doesn't do that. You know, when they need to go hard in the paint, they do. But when they don't, you know, they sort of ease off and let the monetary policy play itself out. And I think that I'm so bullish for Warsh getting in there and he and Besson being on the same page and trying to just totally revamp how the Fed operates. Because it's supposed to be a net profit center for the U.S., and it is not. In fact, they're just going to pay themselves back, and that's going to take a long time.
They both worked with Stan Druckenmiller at Duquesne Capital, and Stan Druckenmiller generated 30% returns per year over 30 years.
Yeah, the boys know how to operate.
So
Well, I think we need to also keep in mind, though, I've got a major problem with the fact that Kevin Warsh, who married into the Estee Lauder family, he has money.
Yeah,
And he's had a successful business career, and I don't like that he has personal assets.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Notably, we talked about it yesterday, but Nick Timmerhouse continued to be a massive pansy and refused to tweet about the PPI. He didn't mention it once, but he just went on an absolute run about how Kevin Warsh is a very rich man, has lots of private holdings and things like SpaceX and Polymarket and AI companies, and how he could probably be not trustworthy as a result.
Yeah, I for one, if I'm looking for someone to have a voice, a major voice, perhaps the most important voice for the financial sector, for banks, for the economy, big picture finance, as they would say, I would prefer someone that's not had success in that area.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, how dare we bring in somebody that's accrued quite a bit of capital
Yeah.
by being shrewd?
The cobbler should have shoes, as they say.
in more Nick Timmerhouse news, in the past half hour, he has tweeted about Lisa Cook, Donald Trump, and potentially firing Jerome Powell. He has not tweeted about the import price index coming in at their expectation was positive 2.0% on a month-over-month basis, and it came in at 0.8.
Yeesh.
All
mean,
driven by higher oil prices.
Yeah, and export prices were up. So we're making more money on selling stuff than we are paying for importing stuff. PPI came in cold.
But when you see data like that, you have to think
I'm responsible.
I'm worried about Fed independence.
It's like I could report facts or I could report opinions, and he is just firing off opinions. I mean, notably, Donald Trump did set him off this morning because he was having an interview with Maria Bartiromo that basically said that if Jay Powell doesn't leave when Warsh gets in, then I'm going to fire him. I've been actually trying to, he said, and I think he said to verbatim, I don't like to be a controversial person. But he said that that was the reason why he had not yet fired Jay Powell. So, you know, I think he means that. I don't think it's true. I mean, I like
he thinks it's true though.
The result is not necessarily true, but I mean, it's just I don't know what Nick Timrose is going to do when Jay Powell leaves.
Yeah, man,
he's going to be lost out there.
He's going to be his butler.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have no daddy, and that's tough. You know,
it's tough out there.
He's going to be flying in the wind with no direction. So, prayers up for him. He's not going to know what to tweet about. He might have to actually start reporting the data that has to do with what the Fed might actually use to make their decisions.
Nah, he'll find a new slant. Yeah, you mentioned Trump's interview with Maria. What stood out to you, Ben? Other than, I mean, it certainly seems like he thinks this war's wrapping up.
Yeah, the big quote that's going around is, "I had to divert because otherwise you'd have Iran with a nuclear weapon, and if Iran had a nuclear weapon, you'd be calling everyone over there, sir, and you don't want to do that." To which she responds, "Well, you keep saying is this war over?" And he says, "Yeah, it's pretty close to over. It's very close to over. If I pulled up stakes right now, it'd take them 20 years to build. We're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly." And then separately in an interview with Jonathan Karl last night, he said that, and this was tweeted at like 11:30 at night, he says, "I think you're going to be watching an amazing 2 days ahead. I really do. I asked if this war ends with a deal, or do you just say, look, we knocked out the capability and that's it?" And he says, Trump says, "It could end either way, but I think a deal is preferable because then they can rebuild. They really do have a different regime there. No matter what, we took out the radicals. They're gone, no longer with us."
Do you see that
this morning,
the head of the Security Council, the new guy, got stabbed to death by masked individuals in Iran? The guy, the head of the whatever Basij or whatever it's called. I saw that this morning. Whether that's not true, it sounds like he got at two brutade. A bunch of 22 guys showed up with knives and executed him. So maybe the people are on board with what's going on.
I do think that the deal is potentially coming. Trump says today that China's very happy that I'm permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I'm doing it for them and the world. Situation will never happen again. President Xi will give me a big fat hug when I get there in a few weeks.
Yeah, Basij commander Mohammed Shir Mohammedian was reportedly killed last night, being stabbed over a dozen times near Tehran by masked Iranians. So
it's a tough way to go.
Tough break, yeah. That's way worse than getting a bomb dropped on you, I think. I would be like, tough part about being stabbed is you can see it.
And this is maybe dark, but you got to figure like there's at least a brief moment when the bomb's being dropped on you where you're like, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen this.
Like that scene from, is it Terminator 2 when the nuclear bomb goes off and he's like standing at the fence and it's just like, woof.
Yeah, there's at least a brief moment of like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
That's like super fireworks.
There's nothing cool about watching yourself get stabbed.
Yeah. Here's a fun story. So when my dad was in Vietnam, he flew a supersonic fighter bomber. So think very fast, but they would roll in and drop bombs right on the line on top of firefights. And he heard that he had dropped a short round, shout out Indiana Jones, and that it had injured a guy. So he went to visit him at the field hospital, and the guy had a broken leg from the bomb that had dropped up too short to the front line. And he said that when he talked to the guy, he was like, "Man, yeah, it was all my fault." He's like, "I stood up because I wanted to see the bombs go off." He's like, and a tree hit me in the leg. So there's your, is it cool to look at bombs go off? The
Jim, off the hook.
Yeah. So allegedly that's a
cool, but not worth it.
Yeah. That's something that is worth looking at, but might cause problems. So there you go.
All right. We're getting some interesting side effects from the change in immigration as some universities are really out there whining right now. Ben, I want you to share your thoughts, then I have some additional thoughts.
Yeah, and this is again on me for not formatting the pictures correctly, but basically the University of Oregon came out with a big letter saying there's massive enrollment uncertainty. So this is a university who accepts 89% of applicants and only 14% of those people accepted now enroll in the university. And that's down from 20%.
That's a backup
pre-COVID.
school, is what some would call it.
And it's falling apart right now because universities who rely a lot on out-of-state tuition are really getting hammered, because what's happening is a lot of the international students are not coming because of the immigration issues. You have a demographic wall. So the baby boomers had the millennials. They populated colleges for, the better part of the 2010s. But then Gen X is much smaller than the baby boomer population, which means that Gen Z is smaller than the millennials. And therefore, you're seeing particular regions of the country. So think of regions of the country that don't have as much population growth, don't have as many families being created, don't have as many kids being born, that also attract large numbers of international students. And you probably can think of about 3 states. And what we're seeing is California is starting to really be aggressive about, we need to keep those enrollment numbers up, which means that 2/3, University of Oregon, only about 3 to 4% of their enrollment is international, but 2/3 of their enrollment is out of state, and most of that's coming from California. But when UC Davis and UC San Diego and all these UC schools, Berkeley, they're all, 18, 20, 25% immigrants in those universities. They're going to start pulling more of those California kids, and that's really resulting in weak enrollment trends in the most valuable group, which is the out-of-state group, because they'll spend 3 to 4x what the in-state people do.
I think perhaps the immigration is part of it. I think perhaps a shifting view of academics and,
I completely agree.
Political components are at play, because when you sent this out, I had remembered recently seeing a headline about how the University of Georgia had a record number of applications. So I pulled up the data, and it was last year was a record. Fall of 2026 applications were up almost 6%. And they specifically noted that out-of-state applications are growing at double the in-state application rate. So then I wondered, Alabama, record applications. The University of South Carolina, record applications. I imagine Tennessee.
I mean, Vanderbilt the other day had like a 3% acceptance rate. Yeah, there's another article that came out that said Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech are now considered the new Ivies. But I think that there's also something about the environment on those campuses is not the same as what would traditionally be a campus you would want to go to. I mean, plus, think about how big football is. I mean, college football is so huge. People want to go to those schools. I mean, it's the reason I wanted to go to a school like that is, I mean, I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. A little guy named Peyton Manning was pretty hot in the streets when I was a young boy.
I mean, I do also think it's easier to send your application to a lot of places now with the Common App, but I agree with you guys. And if you think about the onus put on education right now, it's, the white collar, if you're going for more, hey, I want to be an electrician and a data center, and
you can make so much.
You can make so much money.
Yeah. I mean, I think that college was a humongous waste of money. I think it probably would have ended up just fine without it. And I think a lot of people do. And I think with the advent of ChatGPT, it's like you can find any information you want. You can self-educate. We talked about this a little bit in the kitchen the other day.
But you got to figure, even all those online programs right now, I mean, I feel like you can spend an hour on Perplexity Computer and build something that takes your classes for you.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the kitchen the other day, but Elon Musk had an interview piece that was going viral on Twitter the other day talking about how, the education system is broken because the idea that everyone needs to learn the same things at the same chronological age in the same order is a bad technique because people are interested in different things. You have different skill sets, and you should be able to maximize those. I mean, I had lunch with a close friend of mine, French guy, Francois. Shout out, Francois. But,
what up, Francois?
He tested into a thing when he was in elementary school. They got him into an engineering school when he was 13 years old. And the idea is you basically are on the fast track to become one of the top engineers in France. And he did they put him in high school in Argentina. He did an internship in New Zealand, and then he went to work in Germany before coming here. And it's like there was no like, hey man, you need to learn about French literature. Yeah, it was just like from a very young age, you've got an obvious aptitude for engineering. We're just going to fast track you. And now he's a successful Frenchman living in Atlanta. But he's lived all over the world, and that was fully a function of them identifying that at a young age. And it was interesting because I was asking him about, did you ever, like, is there nobility that, like, walks among the people from, like, old France? And he was like, oh, yeah, my engineering school was full of, like, Marquis de, like, all these people who were, like, he was like, it was weird because they were a bunch of, like, weird rich kids, but they all had, like, formal titles and stuff. But that's who ends up there, I'm sure, over there, too. But it's an interesting idea to be like, hey, this kid is really good at X. Let's put them in the X bucket and get them fast-tracked. Like, they don't, like, if they can complete their algebra at age 10, they don't need to be sitting there bored out of their minds at age 15, while everybody else is catching up. There needs to be, I don't know how you do that, but there's got to be a better education system.
We can figure it.
And college is mostly a waste of time, I'd say.
It's a good time, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
you learn a lot about what
the
not
good
to
times
do.
take a lot away from the education.
Yeah.
I learned more about social interactions than I did
Yep.
anything else, I think.
All right. We'll wrap it up there. We will be back tomorrow. It's burrito day. Hope you guys have a
It's
awesome
not. It's Wednesday.
Tomorrow. We'll
Oh.
Yeah. When we come back. Tomorrow day. Yeah.
Fall
start.
I thought it was Thursday as well when I woke up this morning. It's been a weird week.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.